she gathered the army, protected and united Egypt, the Queen Amenhotep, long live she. Amenhotep's son Ahmose becomes first king of the new kingdom, arguably the most glorious era in ancient Egypt. He erects the last Egyptian pyramid. From then on, underground tombs are built. Near the Valley of the Kings is the funerary temple of Ahmose's descendant Hatshepsut, built by the most powerful and successful female pharaoh on the Egyptian throne. Hatshepsut's mortuary temple is one of the most beautiful and impressive structures left to us by the ancient Egyptians. Hatshepsut's rise begins when she marries her half-brother Thutmose II. After his early death, things seem to run their natural course. Since Thutmose III, the heir to the throne, is still too young to rule, Hatshepsut takes over the regency. But then she goes one step further. She officially proclaims herself queen and rules alongside Thutmose III, thus limiting the power of the young pharaoh. Hatshepsut leaves nothing to chance to substantiate her claim to rule. She decides to take an unusual step. Although she continues to use female epithets like Daughter of Ra or Lady of the Two Lands, she lets herself be portrayed more and more as a man, even with a royal ceremonial beard. Hatshepsut even has the story of her conception retold. On a relief in her mortuary temple, her version is carved in stone. According to it, the sun god Amen united with her mother to conceive her. Thus, she not only legitimizes herself as queen, but makes herself a living demi-goddess. Under her leadership, Egypt experiences a period of prosperity. Her trade missions lead as far as the legendary land of Punt. They bring back wealth and rare luxury goods.
It's been said luxury is the father or mother of invention. This trade, was a part of how the pyramids built Egypt, by extending these routes way down into Punt for frankincense and myrrh, like Hatshepsut did. This was all part, it helped them, it incentivized them to build great ships. All of this, increased Egypt's infrastructure in terms of now they had seagoing vessels, not just Nile transport barges.
Trade is crucial for Egypt's wealth and power. By opening up new markets, Hatshepsut boosts the country's economy, the base of a stable empire. After reigning for about 21 years, Hatshepsut dies and is solemnly buried in the Valley of the Kings. Following her death, however, her memory is systematically destroyed. Hatshepsut's stepson, Thutmose III, was long regarded as the one behind the annihilation of her pictorial representations. However, recent research dates the destruction into later times. Whoever it was, he did not succeed in erasing Hatshepsut's memory. With Hatshepsut begins the glorious era of the New Kingdom. Her successor, Thutmose III, becomes a great warlord. Under him, Egypt reaches the greatest expansion of its history. Amenhotep III, however, is remembered primarily as a builder. He has numerous sanctuaries built. The Memnon Colossi near the temple of Hatshepsut are part of his mortuary temple. Yet beside him stands a powerful woman, his great royal wife, Tia. Their special connection is shown in this colossal statue. Both are depicted as the same size. The message is clear. This woman is not a subordinate. She is a partner. Officially, Tia is merely Amenhotep's wife, yet for all practical purposes, she's his co-ruler. Together, they determine the fate of the empire on the Nile. When Amenhotep III declares himself a god, Tia appears as his female counterpart at his side. Tia and Amenhotep have at least 6 children together, including Akhenaten, who goes down in Egyptian history as the heretic king. His wife Nefertiti becomes even more famous. Her immaculate bust turns her into an icon. Her name means the beautiful one has come, but where she actually came from remains a mystery to this day. She was probably a member of the Egyptian upper class. After his accession to power, Akhenaten fundamentally restructures the Egyptian empire. He disempowers the influential priests of the imperial god Amen. The new sole god is Aten, the sun disk. He founds a new capital, Akhet-Aten, far away from Thebes, the seat of the Amen priesthood. From here, he and Nefertiti rule the land.
Like her predecessor, Queen Tia, Nefertiti regularly appears together with her husband. Akhenaten and Nefertiti appear almost as inseparable. What's more, like Queen Tia, Nefertiti is shown in scenes that are unusual for queens, such as the slaying of enemies. While the king slays male enemies, Nefertiti is shown slaying female enemies. Finally, there's a crown that only she wears. No queen before her and no queen after her are depicted with such a crown. In Karnak, we see another telling detail in a temple where reliefs on the pillars show the queen sacrificing to the god Aten without her husband. This too is a novelty, that the queen may appear alone at rites.
Together, the couple revolutionizes art. The so-called Amarna style shows the royal family in their private surroundings for the very first time. They stage themselves as a kind of holy family. A counter-design to the traditional group representation of the Egyptian gods. At the same time, these images portray them as approachable and thoroughly human. It's a style that still seems amazingly modern. Nefertiti's end is as mysterious as her origin. She was long believed to have died in Akhenaten's 12th or 14th year of reign, or even to have been disowned by her husband. But then in 2012, archaeologists discover a crucial clue. In a quarry, they find an inscription from Akhenaten's 16th year of reign. It addresses Nefertiti as the great royal wife. Thus it's clear that she was alive at least until shortly before Akhenaten's death. However, this doesn't explain Nefertiti's mysterious disappearance from history, and has led to much speculation. It has been assumed that she continued to rule independently under the name of Pharaoh Semenkhare after Akhenaten's death, since some images show her with the crown of a pharaoh. About her end, nothing is known. Yet, her legendary bust, one of the most famous treasures of ancient Egypt, has made Nefertiti immortal and an icon of beauty.
What he did was he made an inscription for himself commemorating his victories east and west, And then underneath, his men set a small statue of the king, and they covered the inscription with gold. Today you can hardly see it, but in those days it would have been the most conspicuous feature of the mountain.
I mean, that's meant to be seen by the gods.
Seen by the gods.
Of course, no mortal eye could read this from the ground, but that wasn't the point. This was a message to the gods carved on a monument built to impress. Completely covered in gold, it reflected the sun's rays, and it acted like a giant billboard as it telegraphed Taharka's message for miles around. And this again harked back to Egypt's past, when previous pharaohs had placed gilded capstones on their pyramids and obelisks to harness the potent powers of the sun. Just to the east of Jebel Barkal lies the necropolis of Nuri, where the Kushite king's transformation into Egyptian pharaohs was finally completed. For the dynasty who'd invaded Egypt were now copying Egypt's ultimate symbol. And for the first time in over 1,000 years, the kings who ruled Egypt were buried in pyramids.
When the kings made their capital at Memphis, they were living right across the river from the Great Pyramids. Taharka spent most of his life there and was familiar with the Great Pyramids. And so when he died, he needed a pyramid of commensurate scale. And this, he sort of established this new type, and it was followed by all of his successors.
The Kushites eventually built more pyramids here in their Nubian homeland than the Egyptians had built in Egypt. And just as at Giza, Taharka's pyramid is precisely aligned to its environment. For on the exact day when the Nile flood begins to recede, the sun sets just like this, directly behind the Jebel Barkal pinnacle. Yet only on this specific day, and only when viewed from the top of Taharka's pyramid.
That is totally impressive. Not just a skill, a feat of engineering, but such devotion to the gods.
Gods, observing nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take a huge amount of observation to get the position just right, to get the day just right.
Surrounded by these pyramids, the images of Amun and Mut and their monumental temples, it's easy to forget that the Kushites were actually a foreign power who'd taken Egypt by force. Yet it's almost as if Egypt was taunting its invaders. While you may try and dominate our land, our culture will ultimately dominate you. And as such, the Kushites left a legacy of renewal and resurrection.
But like all Egypt's conquerors, the Kushites' moment in the sun was fleeting, for their 25th dynasty lasted but a century as a far more ruthless and ambitious power now invaded.
In 674 BC, the fearsome Assyrian army marched into Egypt. As ruthless expansionists, they had little interest in Egyptian culture. They graphically demonstrated their contempt by sacking the sacred city of Thebes.
The Assyrians, unlike the Egyptians, are interested in expanding their empire and really taking over other parts of the world, and they do that by violence.
This very un-Egyptian bronze helmet was discovered in Thebes. It is one of the very few objects that reveal the Assyrian takeover of Egypt. Despite possessing equally powerful iconography of their own, the Assyrians had little time to leave their mark. They simply stamped their authority upon Egypt by trying to rip out its religious heart.
This holy complex, this really huge sacred space, had never been attacked in Egyptian history, and so for a mob to damage the temple, to damage statues perhaps, to damage precious things would really have been absolute anathema to the Egyptians.
What's really striking is it's obviously not an Egyptian item, but the Egyptians didn't even wear helmets, did they? They relied on their thick hair, didn't they? Yeah. So for me, it really evokes a completely alien image